Coming up in this episode of iCantCU, I'll talk about my trip up to New York City for Jane's settlement on her apartment, and I'll talk about taking the subway and why you shouldn't be afraid to do it. Stick with me.
From Studio B in Swarthmore, this is the iCantCU podcast with David. It's like blind people for dummies.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of iCantCU. My name is David, at David Benj on all the socials. I really appreciate you joining me for this episode. I apologize for my voice, and I know there's going to be a lot of edits from coughing. And I just hope that I wiped my mustache enough after I blew my nose. You may be wondering why I'm even recording this episode today. Tomorrow I'm heading to Washington for Washington Seminar, and I know I'm going to have a whole bunch of things to say about that. So I didn't want to intermingle the two episodes. So this is going to be probably a little bit shorter than normal because I'm going to talk about just traveling up to New York City, talking about the subway, talking about what Jane and I did after settlement, and so forth and so on. And settlement, honestly, was a little anticlimactic, but I'll get to that in a minute. Nothing really new here in Studio B. Same old over there. To my right. Everything else looks pretty good, I guess. Before I jump into it, I did want to mention I was on a panel a couple days ago for Designing for Accessibility, it was called, and I'll put a link to the video of it over on YouTube. It was recorded, but it was the first time I really had some cited real-time feedback of how this all looked. Was I in focus? Was I looking at the camera? And I believe the camera's right there. I can't tell because all I see are the lights and and the white wall. And I know the camera's black, but I just can't make it out. But I wanted to talk about this, about traveling to New York, because someone told me, oh, I'm so afraid to take the subway. And it is challenging. My dad used to say to me, and it had nothing to do because for being visually impaired. In general, he was talking about in business, in anything. He said, be careful, but don't be afraid. And I've kind of done that since then, whether it was making a business decision. And that's when he told me that. That's what he was talking about. He wasn't talking about me walking across the street. He wasn't talking to me about taking the subway. He was talking about a business decision that I was mulling, and I asked him about, and we talked about it, and he said, look, you always be careful, but don't be afraid to take that chance. And I've been taking chances ever since. I was talking to someone who mentioned that they were afraid to take the subway. And to me, in New York City, it makes it so easy to get to so many places. Now, I will give you that once you get off the subway, it's a maze sometimes to get out of the station. In episode 123 of White Cane's Connect Drop, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but we kind of talked to someone who can do maps for that, which would make it a lot easier. That's the biggest challenge to me. Are there going to be times when I get on the subway going the wrong way? Absolutely. Am I going to get on the wrong subway entirely? Maybe. I always wondered when I was in Orlando, as I mentioned in the last episode, I went to the gate, which wasn't the correct gate. Now, it so happened that there was nothing going on at that gate, so I didn't get on the plane there. When I was in Vegas in April of last year, I almost got on a plane going to Orange County because a guy thought I was going to Orange County, John Wayne Airport. And he thought I was joking when I said I was going to Philadelphia. So there's always that chance, whether you're sighted or blind. There's always that chance that you get on the wrong car, you get on the wrong plane, you get on the wrong bus route, or you just get on the right one, but it's going the wrong way. So to the person who mentioned that they were afraid to take the subway, why are you afraid? Maybe if you go on with someone and you get a little bit of familiarity with getting off at that stop or just riding the subway in general, that will ease your fears and that will make things a lot better for you because, again, the subway in New York can take you everywhere, just about. And if it can't take you right there, it can take you within a few blocks. And it just makes it so easy to get through. And again, I know that it's tough. The first time I took the subway to Jane's apartment from Penn Station, I had no idea where I was going. That was, I want to say last year for Laugh for Sight. But I asked someone at the train station, I said, how do I get to the subway? I need to get on the number 1 train. And it was somebody at the Red Cap at Penn Station. She said, go down those stairs over there. And I pointed and I said, over there? And she said, yes. I said, okay. She said, you'll go down there, make a right, and walk all the way down, and you'll find the number 1 train. And sure enough, I did that. Now, I did walk for a while. Now, and I guess that was 2 Octobers ago, not last October. Last October, I got off in Moynihan, so finding the one was a little bit different, and I wandered around. And when I got to a specific spot, I'm thinking, boy, this seems familiar to me. I wonder if I just went to the left here, if that would get me to the 1 train. So I made the left and I walked down. Again, there wasn't any time constraints. I wasn't rushing to get somewhere. And I saw a couple of people in line, and I went up to the ticket agent and I said, is this the one? And they told me yes. I pulled out my phone, I scanned my Apple Pay, and I got on. And because once I was through, I remembered what the subway person and the MTA person had told me the last time, which was my first time going through. Once you get through the turnstiles, walk all the way down, and there'll be an elevator to take you up to the platform. Great. And as I told you in the last episode, I had to take the elevator on my own last time, and I hit the call button as opposed to the button to get the elevator. But all was good. I mean, I got to the platform, got on the train, got to Jane's place. Now, it also helped in the last episode where I was able to hear the stops. When I went the time before that, which was for Laugh for Sight last October, I couldn't hear the stops. So I had to ask people, was this 103rd Street? Now, I knew that it was coming up because, as I mentioned again in the last episode, there are a few stops that have a middle platform. So the doors open on a different side of the car. So I knew that once I got to that one, it felt around the time, and I got off because I asked somebody, I said, is this 103rd? So it doesn't matter if you've never done it before on your own. It doesn't matter about that. You just got to do it. Because once you do it, you'll say, wow, why didn't I do that before? It will just make it so easy for you to get places, and you'll get more confidence. The more times you do it, you'll get more confident. And that's the biggest thing. In the blind community, if you've never done it before, again, going to that hotel in Orlando, I walked around. That's the first thing I do when I get to a new place. I like to just wander around. I did it when we went to Erie. I had never been to that hotel in the convention center and the other hotel. So I wandered around. It was a quiet time. Like we got there late, and at 10 o'clock at night where not too much was going on, I just wandered around to look to see where things were. I used my phone in Seeing AI to read some of the signs that were at the doors for where the different events were going to be for our convention. And you get the idea of where everything is. So the next day when you are rushed, oh, I got to go over there. Oh, I got to go back that way. I know that I've got to follow this path, and when it turns into carpet, I know I got to make a right. And that's how you figure stuff out. So you shouldn't be afraid to do it. Now, let me tell you about the the rest of the trip. And assuming she approves of the video that I took from her apartment, I will be running the B-roll now. I mean, there's not a lot to it. If you have a decent sized dining room table in your house, that's the size of Jane's kitchen. I mean, the whole kitchen. The size of a dining room table. Our dining room table was, I want to say, 36 inches wide by 84 inches long. That table, if you cleared everything out of her kitchen, wouldn't have fit in her kitchen. That's how tiny her kitchen is. But what I'm showing is it's a studio, is the main room of the studio. Now, she has 3 nice sized closets, which is awesome. The bathroom is a decent size, and it's in a great building. She loves the building, and that's why she bought it. again, it's small. I want to say it's around 400 square feet. So look around your house. If you have a room that's 20 by 20, that's Jane's place. There's a hallway. And again, the closets are good. There's not a lot of storage in the kitchen. The kitchen really needs to be refigured. And I don't know how you can do it because there's some dead space in one of the cabinets. So she's going to need some help with that. But it's a nice place. She'll put her own touches on it as she's there. And again, it's in a nice building. So when I got up to her apartment, and I didn't know what I was going to do because I had a little bit of time, and I ended up wandering around Penn Station before I got on the subway and did all that. I thought, let me wander around. When I wasn't sure where I was coming up at. I was following the masses, so I just went up a staircase. And I really wanted to go to Moynihan because I know there's a Starbucks in Moynihan, and I was freezing on the train. My whole body was good. From my knees down were ice cold. And I just wanted to walk around and get some tea, which obviously I could use right now. But I was wandering. When I got up to the top, I thought, oh, this sounds like Penn. And it was. And I thought, okay, again, let me wander around and see what's where. And sure enough, when I wandered around, I wandered over to where the Starbucks used to be. And there was a new one there, a new Starbucks. So when I was there back in October or in August, whenever it was that I was there and they were dismantling it, it was just to put everything new in. So that was very cool. So I was glad I got a tea. I hung around the station. I let it cool down a little bit. I drank it. The one thing I couldn't find, and I could never find, are trash cans. Now, where I was, I knew I wasn't far from the men's room. And that was confirmed when I heard somebody using the blowers to dry their hands. So I always know that there's a trash can in the men's room. So I went to the men's room when my tea was done steeping, and I put the tea bags in the trash. I went back out to the main area of the station to drink my tea. I'm kind of leaning up against a railing, and I have some B-roll of that as well. So I just kind of hung out at the station while I was drinking my tea and listening to hear everything that was going on. And I kind of had an idea at this point that I was at the right spot. I was leaning on a railing that was going to an escalator down. And I thought, oh, I think this is where I need to go down to get onto the subway. And to confirm that, after I finished my tea and threw the cup out back in the men's room, I think I may have even used the men's room, I came back out and I remembered that about 10 or 15 paces forward on my left was the red cap. And so I walked over that way to verify, and it was. And so I knew once I was there, I had to go that way. And I'm pointing, I'm pointing to about 11 o'clock. And I knew the stairs were over that way. So I went down the stairs and I walked, and then I got to the end of that hallway, and I could tell the cross traffic of foot traffic. So I knew I had to make a right, and I walked all the way down. And the one thing that bothered me, the last few times I've been there hasn't been a lot of stores. Well, the last time I was there were stores and restaurants. And I would love to just take a minute, and I probably should have I was shooting video with the GoPro, but take a minute to see what all the places were, because sometimes seeing AI doesn't always read, especially if it's a sign that may have a lot going on with it or some unusual fonts. So I would love to see what all the different places were. I know that there was a pizza place there. I believe there was a sushi place there, a whole bunch of places. And so, I'll have to review the videotape because I haven't checked out the tape that I shot while I was walking from the main area of Penn Station down to the subway, which is kind of weird because I was on the main area of Penn Station. I went down the escalator. I walked all the way down to the subway, scanned my phone for Apple Pay, and I realized when I pushed the elevator button that I had to go up. It wasn't going down. And again, I was the only one on the elevator, so there was no assistance. But there were a bunch of buttons on the panel, but there were only 2 floors. As I felt, there were only 2 floors. And I think the one said mezzanine and the one said platform. And here's an interesting fact. If you have grown up with sight and then lose it, You still know what a P looks like or feels like and what other letters and numbers feel like. But if you've grown up with Braille your entire life, you don't necessarily know what a letter feels like. To you, a C is two dots next to one another, up at the top of the 6-dot cell. So I always found that interesting. How would somebody know if you've been blind your whole life what a 7 feels like? You don't. So I thought about that as I was feeling these words, because I can't read Braille. I was able to feel, like I said, enough to know that one said P and one said M. And again, I think it said mezzanine, not 100%. And I didn't have my camera running at that point, so I'll never know. Got on the subway, got up to Jane's. And so I'm not sure, getting back to the elevator story. So I went down the escalator and then went up in the elevator. Why isn't that? Is it far enough down that that's away from the train station? Shouldn't I have been on the same level? Because I went down, then went up. Now, maybe I didn't go up as much as I came down. Maybe I went up more. Maybe I went up less. I don't know. But I got on the platform, took the train up to to Jane's, and here was something interesting that went on on the train that I forgot to play last time because it's on the GoPro. So when I got to Jane's, Jane was busy. She was working. And it was interesting because I knew where her place is and where settlement was, which I want to say it was on Park Avenue. I don't remember. But we ended up taking a car to go to the settlement. And I was a little worried. Jane wanted to stay on and do work. She was working. Finally, at 1:15, settlement was at 2. I said, come on, we got to go. I already had my 17 layers on, and her apartment was warm because heat is free and it's it's in abundance there. So her bathroom is nice and toasty. It's so nice. She's got this pipe in there that just, I guess, has the hot water in it. It's not a radiator. It's just a pipe that sometimes makes a dripping sound, which could get annoying if I'm being honest. And she thinks so. But again, I think as you're there enough, you kind of tune it out, I think. So we got to settlement. We walked in. There was a money guy there. Now, the banker, ironically, was named Mike Lease, Lease. He was born to go into banking, right? Jane's attorney came in, and I shook hands with her, and I said, nice to meet you. And we didn't really go into anything. By the end of settlement, she said, oh, you're Jane's dad. I'm like, who else? What other old guy is going to be there to sit with her at settlement? I didn't have to do anything. I was just there to support her. I was just there in case anything came up and she had questions or whatnot. And there were a few other people in the room. There was an attorney for the seller who had power of attorney. She lives in California, so that's why she didn't come. There was the title person there, and there was one more guy there. I want to say, I guess I think he was for the bank for the mortgage that was being satisfied from the seller. So pretty cut and dry. Nothing crazy came up. There was an issue with spelling of Jane's middle name. They took care of that. And within 40 minutes or so, we were done. And it was very anticlimactic because there were no keys to hand over. There was no, when are you going to move in? They started that, but Jane said, well, I've been living there for 2 years, over 2 years. So it was bing, bang, boom once we left. In fact, she ended up getting money back from something. I don't remember what, but she said, oh, let's go to the bank and put that in. I said, okay. It wasn't all that, $300 or so dollars. So we went to, I said, where's the closest TD? She said, Dad, they're everywhere here. We're going to find it. So we walked over there. She put the money in the bank. I had an issue because there were a couple of steps going down into the bank. Once you came through the door and through where the ATMs were in the little vestibule area, because there were stairs, there was a railing. And I wasn't sweeping, and Jane didn't mention it. And at that point, Jane was guiding me, but at that point, I don't think she said, "We're coming up the stairs," but she didn't say we're coming up to a railing too. And so I hit the railing on my leg, and that kind of hurt a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. So we finished at the bank. She's like, "Where do you want to go now?" I said, "I don't know. Let's just walk around." And so we're not too far from Grand Central, and I don't ever remember being in Grand Central. So we walked over to Grand Central, and we walked around there for a little bit just so I can kind of get a feel for it. It seemed more like a mall than a train station. There was a squash tournament going on. I don't remember the name of it, but it was very interesting. There was an Apple store there, and Jane reminded me at one point I had gone up, and she and I were meeting. I was doing either a study or work for somebody, and we were gonna meet at Bryant Park, and her phone was dying, and I was running late, I guess. So she went to that Apple store to charge her phone. And, she said, "Yeah, you remember, that's where I charged my phone." I'm like, "Oh, yeah." We walked around there for a little bit. We walked out. Then we walked over to Fifth Avenue, and we were walking down Fifth Avenue. We went to Paris Saint-Germain's store there, which is PSG is in Ligue 1, French football. Had a look around there. Not a fan of that team, but they had a lot of cool stuff. And I wouldn't mind getting Jane showed me a kit. It was a goaltender jersey. Sorry, kit, pardon me. It was the goaltender kit, and it was almost action green with a pattern on it. It was very cool. And it had the PSG logo on the left breast. And I want to say it was pink, but I'm not 100%. I don't remember what Jane said. We walked out. I wanted to go into there was a North Face store, and my hands were freezing, and I needed a decent pair of gloves, which I don't have. So we were going to walk in there, and we forgot after coming out of the PSG store. We continued down. We ended up going into MLB has a nice store there, and they have 8 million hats there. They had the Phillies hat, regular one. They had the Phillies alternate hat, which is blue with the red P and the red bill. They had a Philly Fanatic hat, which was, I think it was red with the blue and then the Fanatic on it, which was kind of cool. They had all these alternate, I guess they're made for women because they were, I want to say pinks, light pink and light blue with the logos being in the opposite. And Jane would have bought a Phillies one if they had that in the pink. I think they had it in the light blue, but not in the pink. We looked around at other hats and jerseys. They had the crazy alternate jersey, the jerseys the Phillies wore on their Friday night games at home, which has this really weird font, but the font was taken from some historical document. And they're like, I want to say it's blue, but to me it looks green. I, again, can't judge me and go by what I say. Then we walked over to 30 Rock, and there are stores below 30 Rock, and you can see there's a little ice rink out in front, which if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing the Zamboni, a little baby Zamboni driving around doing the ice. And we walked in there. There's a store there that Jane loves, a candy store, which you see her going nuts, going from one thing to another. And most of the candy was good. There was one that was just awful. It tasted like, first of all, it was like eating an eraser. Not that I've eaten an eraser, but it was like that. It was that texture, and it tasted like flan. And I don't like flan, so I was not a fan. But all the other stuff was good. And so we ate some of that, and that was what she wanted to do to celebrate, which was funny because I was watching about a year ago, follow this young couple, probably around Jane's age, that moved to Spain, and they were going through getting their documentation from the Spanish consulate. I think they lived out in California. I don't remember. But afterwards, they celebrated by going into one of these candy stores. Now, this candy store was mostly Swedish candy, and I don't know too much about it, and I don't remember the name of it. That if I remember the name, or when I talk to Jane before I do the show notes, I'll put that in there. So we had that, and we walked around some more. And I said, well, all right, well, what are we going to do now? She's like, okay, well, I said, why don't we go back to your place and just chill until it's time to go for dinner? We had a reservation for dinner at a Japanese place, which was really good. But we had some time to relax at her apartment for a little bit. And she did a little more work, and I was on my phone, probably driving her nuts with voiceover. We went to the Japanese place. And then the best is we went to Salt and Straw for dessert. Salt and Straw. Did we take a car? I don't remember if we took a car or if we walked. I think we walked. And we could have taken the subway. It's only a couple of blocks. But we then took a car. We talked about walking back to the train station, the subway station, to go to Penn Station. When I was leaving, I said, Jane, we're going to be freezing when we come out of this ice cream store. So we went to Salt and Straw. We tried almost every flavor, and they really encourage you to try all the different flavors. We got 2 vegan flavors, 2 regular flavors. We got the vegan flavors because they were flavors that sounded interesting to us, not because they were vegan or whatnot, because neither of us are vegan. Jane was vegan for 15 months back when she was in college. It was awful because we couldn't go to most restaurants we wanted to go to. So we had a flight, like I said, and just the flavors there are so good. The girl that helped us was, oh my God, she was outstanding, to the point where when I scanned my phone to pay, Jane looked over and saw that there was a place to leave a tip. So she gave her a tip, and we hung out at the store, and I want to say it was 85 or 90 degrees in the store. And it was a fairly cold day. It wasn't terribly cold, but it was probably in the low 30s, upper 20s. Finished our ice cream, ordered an Uber or Lyft. I want to say it was an Uber, who pulled up down the street, across the street, and in the previous block. And Jane said, give me your phone, because I ordered it on my phone. Jane starts messaging the guy because she thought she saw somebody parked and wasn't sure if it was our guy, and was reiterating we were on the corner of, I don't remember, 77th and Amsterdam. I don't remember the street, the cross street. Wherever Salt and Straw was, we were literally in front. And I want to say it was 77th in Amsterdam. So finally he came up and picked us up, and then went the wrong way, headed north instead of south to go to the train station. It was the first time that I gave somebody 1 star. It was just a long ride. It was expensive, more expensive than it needed to be. And it was just, we were in the car too long. And that part wasn't good. Got to the train station. I was a little fearful because I wanted to get pickles from Jacob's Pickles. And we walked over there, and sure enough, they still had some. So I was very excited. Now the only problem was I only ordered 1. I only got 1. I guess they're quarts. I should have gotten 2 because it didn't last me a week. I finished on Friday. I finished them yesterday, Friday. I'm recording this on Saturday. I got them the previous Friday, but I didn't start eating them until Saturday. So a quart of pickles lasted 1 week. So all in all, it was a very productive day. And again, doing the stuff on my own always makes me feel great. And then when I got to the apartment, when I got to Jane's apartment building, I happened to walk into an elevator. Somebody was already on there. So, they said, what floor? And I said 5. They pushed 5 for me, and boom. Now I will say this, and I mentioned it to Jane. The elevators are not accessible, meaning if I pushed 5 and I was on my own, I'd have to, when the door opened, I'd have to reach out and feel there's usually a plate next to the door around eye level that will have both a raised number as well as the number in Braille. It didn't even ding each time you went to a new floor. It didn't even do that. So that makes it tricky. Now, there's not a lot of floors. I don't know how many floors there are. 7, 10, I don't remember. It's not a huge building. I mean, there's 300 or so units, but I want to say it's only like 10 floors or so. I don't remember. And I didn't get to go. I wanted to go to the roof. We didn't go. It was a little windy and, like I said, cold. We didn't go to the solarium. On a warm day, I'll take some video of that. But all in all, it was a great day. And of course, very proud of Jane for buying the place. And now she doesn't have to worry about moving until she's ready to move on to a different place. And hopefully over the course of time that she's there, like most real estate other than my first house, we bought low and sold high. And hopefully that'll be the case for her when it's time to move to a new place. But it was a fun day. We had a good time walking around. I guess it was Midtown along 5th Avenue, 42nd Street, and however far up we went. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the sushi that we had after, for dinner was great. I had, what's it called? Crunchy rice. Oh my God, it was so good. Problem is, I don't think Liz would eat it because it has the raw tuna on, and I don't think she would eat that. So we're not going there. We're going up in a couple of weeks to visit Jane and take her some things here that are too big to carry on the train. We're going to bring some stuff home. Also too much for me to bring home on the train. So we'll do that. on the 15th. But it was a fun day. Now, I mentioned, like I did in the last episode 123 of White Canes Connect, we had Brandon Biggs on from XR Navigation. You can find his company at xrnavigation.io. You can also find his map called Audium at audium.net. And it is a very accessible map so that it gives you a step-by-step, which you can listen to, go 7 steps forward, 2 steps right. And on the show notes of the episode, there is a link to the map for CSUN. CSUN is a conference for disability tech, basically. And the letter CSUN, CSUN. I don't remember what it stands for. My friend Brian is going, so I'm looking forward to hearing his report. I'm going to send him a link to the map so he can use the map while he's there, so he can get around the exhibit hall. The cool thing about that is, even if he doesn't use it while he's there, he can still have a look at where the different vendors are that he might want to see. And with him, it's to learn about the tech and maybe have future guests on that Real Blind Tech show. So we had Brandon on, and he's a young guy, but it was a good episode. And there's also a demo. He did this demo. Now, the editing did take me a little bit longer than normal because of some of the things that were going on with the demo. But I thought the episode came out great. Again, episode 123 of White Canes Connect, featuring Brandon Biggs from XR Navigation and Audium, the accessible map. Check that out if you're interested in that. I really do appreciate you joining me for this episode of iCantCU. Remember, you can check out the show notes, iCantCU.com/280, iCantCU.com/280. And remember, iCantCU sounds like a whole sentence, but it's only 7 characters long. iCantCU.com/280. And if you go to the show notes page at iCantCU.com/280, you can also see the video for this very episode. So you don't have to go over to youtube.com/@iCantCU. You can go right to the show notes page. Everything's there. And I hope in the near future to really have that new website up. But that's another story for another day. Reach out, 646-926-6350. You've got up to 3 minutes. Leave your name and town if you do leave a voicemail. Questions, comments, show ideas, something you liked, something you don't like. If you like the B-roll that I shot, let me know. Anything. Again, 646-926-6350. You can also reach out via email, iCantCUpodcast@gmail.com. That's iCantCUpodcast@gmail.com. Also, there's the socials, @DavidBenge, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, all those places. Reach out and connect with me. That would be great, and we can start a conversation. I really appreciate you joining me for this episode. Thank you for putting up with my crazy voice. Be well, stay safe, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the iCantCU podcast with David. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. And don't forget to share the podcast with your friends.